What's up, blessed ones? You are now blaring the podcast. Brought to you by AB1 Studios. Thank you for your time. Listening. You want to know something else, blessed ones? Yes, so we are at episode 100 finally. After 3 years of this podcast, we have made it here. And as I always say, thank you. I can't thank those listeners enough. I can't thank my subscribers enough. It's a small number. Might be 1 or 10 of y'all, but it's a very small number. But I do appreciate it. I think this is the time we reflect and recognize that no matter of the inflation, no matter of the recessions, no matter of the stress that we all go through, we have to appreciate those who are holding you down with you. I always talk about, making suggestions, requests, any questions in order for us to progress in this podding space, because though I am the host and sometimes I have co-hosts and guests, I want the listeners, want you all to be a part of that conversation. But it's all right. I did not get the reception that I would like, but we're still here. And for this 100th episode, I do want to bring back a couple things to where that led me in the beginning. I want to give a shout out to all those people who were able to engage and interact with me on the show. Kima Love, Fo Mills, Jolie Noel, my friend Dama, Latoya, and others who have viewed and listened. Just to name those particular people, because I know that any contribution to the show is a blessing, is a part of the algorithm. And I always say this, and I continue to say this, I'm going to double down on it. I'm going to do my best to be more consistent. A lot has gone on within the past month, which was the last time you heard from me. A lot has happened, good and bad. However, if I must keep it 100, I'm going to keep it productive, positive, and prosperous, because today is a new day. So with that said, I want to talk about life today. I want to talk about the privilege of life, the gift of life. Because for those of you who know me and knows my faith and knows my heart, y'all know that I go through a struggle every day. But without a struggle, there is no hustle. And today, I want to talk about current events. Like I said, a lot has gone on in the entertainment industry and the political space in the world. And as much as I have opinions and insights and views on all those things, I want to tell y'all and share with y'all what's been going on with me and why it always takes me so long to drop an episode, and then why it be like a spurt of episodes at a time. It's just because I've been lazy. Sometimes I just don't feel like doing it. And I say this all the time. It's like, it's okay. It's your life. You can do what you want. My life, my choice. But lately I've been going through some things, and this is for anybody who's going through some things and anybody who needs some words of encouragement, who needs some enlightenment, because it is okay to say that I am not okay, and it's also okay to say that you are looking to be enlightened and encouraged, because sometimes we need that push. Sometimes that motivation is all we have that will move us. Not everybody's going to be able to pray. Not everybody's going to have that support from their friends and family. Not everybody's going to have that same community and village. So I am bringing myself to you to let you know that I will be your community and your village. If I have to carry you on my back, that's what I'm here for. So with all the social media posts, with all the YouTube videos, with all the written letters, anything, I will make it my business to come up here on this platform, on all DSPs, whether it's going to be 1 minute, 10 minutes, or an hour, or 3 hours, whatever it is, weekly, to say the least, to give you something to look forward to give you some words of encouragement, to give you some words of wisdom, to uplift you, and to redirect you out of a dark place, out of a sunken place, out of a black hole, to remove that black cloud, or to help you get out of that black cloud, because I've been through it. I'm going through it. I'm in and out of it. Going to one hole, out of another hole, and then go back into another one. Like, life is a privilege. So I am grateful for life. I am grateful for my support and my friends and family who are there for me. I am grateful for the lessons that I have given. And I'm going to keep it all the way 100, since this is the 100th episode. I don't always have it right. I'm not going to say because I'm human. I'm not going to say because I'm not perfect. I'm not even going to say because I'm selfish. It's just simply because I don't be wanting to. I don't be in the mood. Sometimes I want to just throw life away sometimes. But I remember that things are going to happen. Things are going to happen in life even if you do everything right. Because this is what life is about. Life is about overcoming and conquering our fears. Overcoming and conquering our adversity. Overcoming and conquering our doubts. We was made into sin. We was born into sin. But we are not to remain in sin. It takes a lifetime to really be to a certain level that you believe that you can be. Some might get there before others, but there is no limit for what limitations are because we all have our own journey and our own path. So, I want to tell you a story of struggle, a story of adversity, and a story of victory and salvation. I am a God guy. I am a father. I am a friend. I am your cancer care bear. So I'm going to tell you this story. Please bear with me. I have had a life of privilege and a life of love and support. I grew up in a two-parent household up until probably the age of 10. However, I always had both my parents in my life. When my parents separated and divorced, I didn't realize it until later on. Now, mind you, I haven't talked to anybody really about this. So consider this me talking to you all, talking to God with you all. I was a rebellious kid. Didn't really get into trouble, but just rebellious towards my mother and stuff. Sometimes I might have been resentful towards other people. Because again, me, someone who has a good relationship with their father, who was a daddy's boy, I didn't realize that I was being disobedient a lot to my mom because I missed my dad. I didn't want to do a lot of things that she said because I wanted to be with my dad, or I wanted my dad there. Nothing necessarily against the men who came around, or the men that she dated, or even with my father. But looking at it now, some people might not agree, but my son, who is 7, he is also a product of that same factor. Me and his mother are divorced. Though I am in his life, he does not live with me. And my son has autism, he has ADHD. It is not something I want to use as an excuse. However, it is something that I take into account because I do feel like there's certain behaviors that children have due to lack of a two-parent household, a lack of discipline, a lack of structure. You can co-parent. However, there are different things that will cause it spiritually of a behavior. I'm just trying to reflect. So, going back to me as a child, growing up in a now single parent household, and being part time with my dad. I had siblings. There's certain things that we endure, certain things that we embrace. I'm working on my communication as I speak. I see my son dealing with a lot of things, maybe emotionally, that I was a little bit older. My son haven't even reached the level of maturity that I have reached when my parents separated and divorced. My son was pretty much 2 years old when me and his mother divorced, but at the same time, you know, you can be. So, one thing that I do want to say is this: there is a difference between a single parent, a full time parent, and co parenting. You can co parent. A full time parent is someone who is a parent 24/7, someone who doesn't have any help, just like a single parent. I think sometimes it's a single parent household, but they're not a single parent. Like, you are doing everything by yourself. I'm not a product of that. My son is not a product of that. My son and I are a product of co-parents. But anyway, I just wanted to put that out there. So anyway, the story is this: I had a lot of pain and hurt from my parents not being together anymore. And I think sometimes it's like, sometimes we end up having generational curses. Sometimes we don't really realize certain things. We oftentimes think that what we do and how we raise our kids makes their upbringing, I guess solidified that it's gonna, they're gonna be, upstanding citizens and all that. And there is some truth to that. But I also do feel like there's also a spiritual, mental, the word I cannot use, I can't find, sometimes that factors in. Meaning that just because you do everything you're supposed to do doesn't mean everything is going to go right. Me being a Christian, I can do everything right. Not lie, not fornicate, pay my tithes, love my neighbor, be forgiving. Traditionally, all these things. But I will still go through despair, agony. I will still go through struggles. Our faith makes a difference. So when I share how I was brought up, how my son was brought up, a lot of these things factor in a sense of spirituality where no one knows what goes on in our minds. Sometimes we don't know what goes in our minds. Sometimes we will have these feelings due just because they're the first thing that comes to mind. Or sometimes we see things and be like me, like I never been one of those children that felt like it was my fault that my parents, excuse me, that my parents split up. I've been always vocal. I've been always, you know, one of those children who, again, I was very assertive. And because I was assertive, I used to rub people the wrong way. Didn't know how to say things to people. Not in a mean way, but it just came out just so unpolite. Kind-hearted guy. That's how I was raised with respect, raised with manners. But again, I would have an attitude problem. Sometimes I do. I don't like when things don't go my way. But who doesn't? So yeah, I had a lot of resentment. I had a lot of issues in relationships, romantic relationships, because you know I always been a lover. I always wanted to do what was right by people, and then when the vocal point is romantic relationship, I was more of like I was a people pleaser. I was a woman pleaser, where it's like I used to bow down, worship the ground that they walk on, the woman, the girl, because I just wanted things to last forever. I always believed in, you know, forevership relationships. So part of part of me not seeing my parents work out, subconsciously I have adopted a certain way about how I treat people, or specifically, women in my life. It wasn't a fact of saying, well, my dad wasn't there, so I want to do it because my dad was there. You know, my parents always would tell me, don't have sex before marriage, don't have kids before marriage. And it's like, oh, well, me as a rebellious kid, someone who was, introduced to, you know, sex in his teenage years, it's like, hey, I'm going to experience this anyway. We don't always listen to our parents. And, of course, we're going to do it. But as I reflect on it now, and I think, like, part of who I am as a man, as a father, is contribute from my parents. Not 100% sure why I'm so forgiving, why I'm so compassionate, why I'm so loving, why I'm so understanding. I'm not 100% sure. I mean, I get it. I understand that we all mess up, we all make mistakes, but I think because of part of my grace that I have, I'll allow people to come back in. I don't know, like I said, I never felt abandoned. I never felt, like I said, I never blamed, my parents for they went through what they went through. But you know, I try to be a better person, a better friend to my friends. I try to be a better son to my parents. I try to be a better father to my son. I try to be a better man to my woman. I try to be. I'm very overly protective to a fault to where I can be a little judgmental, a bit critical, a bit, you know, do as I say so you can stay safe to a point where it's like I don't want you to do anything that's gonna affect yourself. I don't want you to, be I just want you to do right because part of divorce, and this correlates with a lot of other relationships, part of divorce is changing changing routines, different, like getting back to self observation, self reflecting. So sometimes I always kind of tie in romantic relationships with platonic and business relationships because it's a commitment. So when you are committed to someone or something, you have to go hard and go to the best of your ability. So for those of you who are into business, into relationships, into whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's podcasting, whether it's music, whether it's retail, like whatever you're doing, there's a commitment there where it's like you can't do no wrong, but you have to give yourself that, allow yourself to, you know, learn. Nothing's gonna be perfect, but it's like, hey, we have to strive for the best. I have to strive to be our best at all times because anything can happen. Because, like I say, an old fool was once a young fool, and it's not right of me to be as critical and judgmental as I am, but a lot of times it 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 flows over into other things. What you do at home can cross over to what you do in your business world. So it's like, though not everybody stands on the same morals and the same ethics and have the same beliefs, you still have to stand on yours. Get to know me. I wasn't 100% sure exactly how I was going to present today's episode, but, I'm just really coming from a sincere place. So how do I tie it into the story? Is like, I would be involved. I've had many jobs. I had many relationships. I had many life midlife crises. Like I had many obstacles. And when I tell you that maybe mine isn't the worst, but hey, we to each his own. We all have our own story. And my story is just that I am a man who wants more for himself and others around him, me, to be the best that we can be. Sometimes life happens and we fall off and we fall short. We have to keep in mind that how we was raised up is also a way that we bring ourselves down. We have to learn and unlearn certain things, and we can't be, you know, too caught in our own way that we try to be like, okay, this is what love looks like. This is what this looks like because of my experience. My only thing is reflecting on my past and my upbringing that made me who I am, but it's not who I want to be. I want to be a better example. I don't want my I don't want my childhood trauma of separation to be, part of the part of a. I don't want it to be like my entire life. So getting back to the story, I've been involved with women, trying to please them, trying to be as submissive to them so they can be submissive to me. But in reality, despite what I believe and no matter how good I see what I believe in, it is what it is, but it's like I have to still recognize that, okay, sometimes there's the wrong people. You're not going to change for the wrong people. You're going to sometimes we have to take a look at ourselves for what we want in life and figure it out. When you're going through a heartbreak, when you're going through a loss, when you're going through some problems, you have to look and think about what happened. Was it something that you can change? And if it's something that you couldn't change, then it's hard, as he said that, but it's just like you have to let it go. Sometimes we dwell in our misery too long. We can sit in our misery for a certain amount of time, but when we dwell in our misery for so long, we then start finding reasons to to be like to be stuck there. I have gone through relationships where I have, started a woman's page on social media after a breakup. It's like you can't get over things like that. You can't get over things dwelling. You have to sit in it to let it be a teachable moment, but then you have to be able to overcome it. How do you overcome it? Is finding things and talking to people who will listen, finding things to finding things that brings you joy, being able to, rest your mind, rest your body is important. Sometimes we overwork ourselves with work. with relationships, with parenting if you're a parent, and sometimes we just overwork it because we try to stay busy and stay in a certain realm of security that we end up going on a crash course to where we're not realizing that we're trying to like, dang, I can't talk because it's like I'm still going through things emotionally in my head, and it's like, how do I say this right? But I'm just trying to be transparent and authentic as possible. I really should have wrote this down, but I don't know what's going on. I don't always know what's going on with the world today, but we have to have to be able to manage our emotions in a way for us to be able to use critical thinking skills and still have compassion. So going back to the story, right? I've been in love many times with multiple people at the same time, many times, because I allowed my vulnerable self to be open to everyone, because I was always one of those people who will open myself to whoever who was ever going to receive it. And it's not always the best thing to do that, because sometimes when you, like me personally, when I'm open, like I'm an open and vulnerable person. And if I'm just having a conversation with people and they listen and they give me feedback, it's like they say things that everything's right. It's like, man, how do I said, this person's amazing, because again, when we are aware that life doesn't revolve around us, and people take the time to encourage you, to uplift you, to love you, and sometimes we see things for what they is, and it's like, hey, I got a strong desire for love, for companionship. So if I'm talking to a woman who I am attracted to, and I want more from, I don't always see them the way that I should see them, because not everybody that is attractive, not everybody that we desire are meant to be our partner. So I had to look and see, like, man, what is wrong with me? Why am I like this? Here's an attractive woman who is giving me a time of day, who's opening, who's letting me express these things, who's not judging me, who's doing this, and then I just fall head over heels. It's easy. Nothing's wrong with it, but it's like we have to remember that there's a certain spirit that we have in us. Mm. There's a certain spirit that we have in us that is going to be lustful. So sometimes when we lust for love, it can be dangerous, because when you're a loving person, when you're someone who believes in relationships like I do, Because I'll be honest, I believe in relationships. I want relationships, so I will take whatever I can get because I believe that when it's mutual, when somebody likes you or somebody cares about you and you care about them in the same light, that it can work, but it won't. But because things will change. But like I said, God knows more than us. The universe knows more than us. So be thankful for the things that you got out of. Some of us will end up in certain strongholds because we desired something that was lustful. Love is great. Lust is not. When you lust for love, I'm sorry, I got a phone call. Hello? Hello?
What's up?
None. I'm actually recording right now.
Oh, okay, bye.
But no, you good.
What?
I said you're good.
Go ahead and finish.
No, just listen. Just listen to me real quick. Just listen to me while you're here. So, I apologize. I got a important phone call. So yeah, when you lust for love, there's a certain stronghold that you attain. There's a certain spirit that you open up because for me personally, because I'm so compassionate and giving, I miss the red flags. I I ignore some of the calling that God is coming upon because being a being a product of divorce, it's like man, I don't want to go through this, and I happen to end up being having my son is now a product of divorce, but I still have to be active. That's why I appreciate even men who step up, because even myself being a man that step up, it's like, yeah, we still need that. We still need that foundation, but we have to remember when you're in a certain space of vulnerability, there's a gauge. When you're doing business, you can't just accept the first good offer that you're given. You still have to hold yourself. You still got to hold yourself a value. So a lot of times I had a lot of insecurities and not believing that if I pass up this job or pass up this woman, that I'm not going to find no one else, because I was anxious. I was anxious to succeed instead of really taking time to really think about it, because society will make you feel like you have to have the money, what you need, but they make it feel like you have to have it, like you can't have standards, you can't have pride. Society will make you believe that you know, you have to be married and you have to do this. And it's like you do, but you can't just be getting in any relationship because it happens so quickly. And my biggest struggle was, you know, knowing how to separate and compartmentalize someone that you're attracted to and something that you need. So if I'm going to complete this story, the story is still in writing, but the story is a young kid suffering from accepted being accepted because now that my family is broken and my siblings are doing their own thing, I only depended on my friends. I depended on those who accepted me. Me and my sister weren't as close as me and my brother. It might not have nothing to do with age, but like we wasn't as close. But she has her family. Me and my brother, as we got older, we started getting into different things. He went into the military. I was still with my mom, so I'm like, oh, all I got is my friend now. So I started finding myself, you know, being a little, becoming into my own as the cancer care bear. I love who loves me, but my love and compassion for other people sometimes can be my weakness as well, because sometimes I will miss the signs, as I mentioned. I don't I don't like being rejected. I don't like being shamed or teased because it puts me in a headspace where it's like, oh, this is the space that I'm in. So if I'm not accepted here, I have to be in seclusive to where I isolate myself, and then that then becomes depression. You know, I have some health issues, mentally, spiritually, physically, sure, and I try to get out of it. And there's avenues that I use I can fix it. I'm not someone who will dwell in my own misery just because I'm in this position. I feel like, hey, you can be sick, you can be having a bad day and still be happy, because if you see where you're going toward, you got to keep your eye on that. So going back to the relationship story, I'll give you an example. I'm not going to say names out of respect, but the very person that held me down also can be that person that tears you down. And that's why I think sometimes, even when it's like, I don't really believe in keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer, because the enemy, the devil knows your strengths and weaknesses. But when you hold on closer to your friends, when you hold on closer to your God, to your to your good space, you can use that. So a lot of times, even the people that you are closest to hurt you, we try to find comfort in them, and that's not wrong. It's just that we have to go back to God and be like, okay, when can I? Because we're emotional. So I look at myself. I look at my upbringing. I look at what I want, what I want as a what I want as a business mind, what I want as a parent, what I want as a companion. I want to be able to be the best of all of that. I hate my job sometimes because I'm like, man, I'm doing too much. I can my 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 companion, if whenever I'm in a relationship, is that I can hate them sometimes because it's like I can't do for them like I want to, because it's like I'm not there yet, because again, money's not important, but it's important. You know, you can't go on trips without money. Sometimes you don't have to go on trips, but it's like sometimes you want to get out of your reality for a while. I love my kids, but at the same time, I have to I have to have that hat on at all times. But I can still take a break from it. That's why we have family. That's why we have villages. So we could like as with like I can say, okay, look, daddy gotta go to work. I'm a man first. I'm a father second. I'm a husband third. But it's like, nah, you're a man first, a husband second, and a father third. So it's like, but when you when you're in that, you don't realize it. I get on a little tangent when I start talking about God and relationships, because it's like, this is my strongest desire. I wanted to be a lot of things coming up, but the most important thing that I wanted to be was a father, because I do believe in being fruitful and giving back. How do I give back to the world? I have my work, I have my job, I have my career, but the biggest gift, the greatest gift, they say the greatest gift that God can give us is a child. A child is God's love. So that's the thing. Like, we don't feel the same love than we do when we have our children. That's why I think the order is always out, because people get in and out of relationships. You can be married 3 times, but you will always have your children. Your children won't see no bad in you if you're around. If you're an active parent, your children will be like my son, he wants to spend time with me. Maybe because he wants to play the game, but it's like, nah, he loves his daddy. It's like, hey, I'm not around. I'm around, but I'm not in the house. But it's like same thing with my father. So I take pride in relationships. So it's like, man, if I'm with you, like, let's get married, let's have kids, because it's like, hey, that's the only way I can actually solidify that I can have that. But in reality, things happen. But it, mm, Lord be with me, please. I'm working on myself. But again, this is the 100th episode, so I want to be all the way 100. You're gonna hear me go through a little self-reflecting, but the purpose of this, right? That's what's right. Listen. I'm almost done. Listen. When you're going through a transition, when you lose your job, or let's say, not even lose your job, when you take a loss, and then you got to go through that transition, it's like, what do I do? You got to sit there in your feelings a little bit, But then you have to remember that life is about lessons and obstacles. It's like, how do you get this? That's why it's important that you have friends. That's why it's important you have support groups. If you feel like you do not need nobody, because even God says all you need is Him, but you got to remember God is using us as vessels. So all we need is Him, yes. But you got to remember your friends God blessed you with, your family God blessed you with. But at the same time, you got to remember you have to be able to see where God is within these structured places. Because when the enemy is saying you're going through loss, he's going to try to add more fuel to that fire. Because there's that good fire and then there's that bad fire. So don't think that you lose a job or somebody break up with you. Yeah, there's going to be, that's just another good opportunity for you to be in something better. But when you're going through that, you're like, hey, I just lost a job. How am I going to make money? Or I just lost the love of my life. What am I going to do now? But it's like, you got to remember that, hey, just remember that you still got today. So I can tell you now, like, me right now, like, I'm not in the best place. I'm not where I want to be. But hey, I got my family still. I got people that love me. I've been involved with, and I tell y'all this often. I've been in and out of relationships. Sometimes I can be the toxic one. Sometimes I can just deal with the toxic thing. But it's like there's someone that I know holds me down, and no matter what disadvantages or disagreements that we have, if I keep my focus on what is good and the things that are like, okay, we have our flaws, we have our disagreements, but if these flaws and disagreements are not like deal breakers and something that, hey, you're just like that hey, you can work with, and hey, you can stand on that. I can tell you now, like, as much as I love my son, I'm not gonna be like, hey, Jameson, I'm just gonna let you walk all over me. I love my son. Love isn't always pleasing. You gotta be a boss. So it's just all about balance. So all I say all that, all these Tourette outbursts, all these mixed emotions that y'all just heard. I say that to say that you gotta have a balance. Some people might be listening to this podcast saying, what is he talking about? Other people might say, I get what you're trying to say, but, yeah, I was all over the place. But again, this is me full-fledged. That's kind of how I try to be. Because I'm not going to be on this red table talk, on these reality shows, producing fake storylines and fake emotions and saying, okay, I want you to look like this when you say this. I want you to say this way. This is me, how it is. Now, again, what makes a good movie is the production. What makes a good video, what makes a good audio is the production. But to me, as far as I'm concerned, again, what's for me is what's for me. What's for you is what's for you. So those who follows. But what makes something good to me is the authenticity. There are certain movies that I like that is just terrible acting, terrible pictures, But if it's a good story, hey, I'm with it. You know, so I'm gonna close out with this, blessed ones. We already know to be positive, productive, and prosperous, and to be safe. But what I want y'all to do, if you made it this far, I want you to think about what you want in life, financially, spiritually, romantically, and mentally. And I want you to think about what you have to do to get it. Forget about what people say. Forget about what you experienced. Look at it, reflect on it, but think about what you want and believe in what you believe you can do. Like, one day, I'm gonna have a nice little house, nice family, whatever. Now, some might say you gotta work 3 jobs, you gotta make 6 figures. Some might say that. Nothing new is under the sun. God knows more than us. And the funny thing about that, because nothing new is under the sun, there has been people that made something out of nothing. So yeah, there's a society mentality that you can't be a man and be vulnerable to your woman. There's a society that believes that, hey, you can't be friends with your kids. But there's also a reality that says nothing's impossible. We just haven't figured it out yet. I'm probably that 0.5% that believes, oh, I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna go through some struggles, but as long as I'm breathing, I'm gonna make a way. I'm gonna find a way to do this because, like I said, you gotta raise your kids. You gotta protect them. But just remember when they get older, because we can't always think about the future, but when they get older, they gonna probably not even want nothing to do with you. If you can live with raising your kids the way that you raise your kids and them growing up hating you or whatever, that's fine. But just remember this, if you are not your parent first, and you can still be their friend, just like as a companion, you know, you're a husband and wife first, but you still gotta be friends. A friend is someone who goes through the adversity with you. A friend is gonna always be honest and open to you. People kind of try to make it solely like one thing, like a parent. A parent is more than just a parent. A parent can be your confidant. A parent can be your like can be your friend. A parent can be your like it's there's different levels and layers. So I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna end this with that. So just go on what you believe. Me being a man of faith knows that we can't please everybody, but I also know that if you believe it, you have to speak what you believe, not what you feel. That's who I am. I know everybody's not that, and I'm fine with that. So if I believe that I can raise 10 kids, have a 10-bedroom house, and I believe that I can be a billionaire, I don't know how I'm going to be it, but it's like I believe that I am going to be one. I'm going to be able to do these things. I'm going to have to say it. sometimes the activity, it doesn't math up, but it's like, hey, not everybody can see the future. Living today, but also plan for tomorrow. But again, this is Blair, your Cancer Care Bear, and I'll see you next week. I hope y'all was able to follow me.